Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Myron.
Happy Halloween! I'm here to eat waffles and swing tire irons, and I'm all out of waffles. What's up, folks? Wrestling. That's what's up. We're going to talk about it.
Well, a little fired up this week, man. If you watched our pre-show, you would know, right? If you're a Patreon member over at patreon.com/tapped-out-pod.
That was excellent, Nick.
I got a little fired up, and I told everybody on the pre-show it'll be a little bit more tame because this is generally consumed by a lot more people, so I do have to tone it back just a little bit for mass consumption. But this week's theme, what did we say it's going to be? You might be part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't think that by the time we're over, we haven't done our job here.
That's very well likely a very solid truth. But man, we're going to cover a bunch of stuff. We always want to talk about the George Indy talk at the end. We know for a fact this week we are not going to have a 3 on tap because there's just way too much stuff to go through.
Content, we have it.
This is a very heavy opinionated show for us. We're going to get right into it. It all was stemmed off of things that happened this week. If you're looking for a recap show of what's happened in the wrestling world this week, this isn't it this week. I'm going to really dive into it. First and foremost, one of the hottest topics in pro wrestling from every single week is what, Myron? Ratings.
Exactly.
We live, we die, and we do everything based on TV ratings.
Everyone on the internet is a programming executive at a major network, and they understand how ratings work. It's all we talk about. I get more stories posted on the internet. My Facebook feed is nothing but stories about this dropped, this went up, this beat this beat that, and it doesn't matter because they're not doing what I don't know. It's not what it used to be. It's just not what it used to be, and everybody knows that.
Well, when AEW decided that that they were doing Wednesdays and NXT's moving to Wednesdays, not moving to Wednesdays, but going to be on USA. I kind of, we discussed this about was probably a little over a month ago. I said, let's get a few weeks in, let's see what the numbers are.
4 weeks,
and I think we'll kind of like figure out what the base is. Figure out, kind of the base of what the whole wrestling fan base was, because I was just curious. So this past week, we'll start with the most recent. Raw, literally a couple days ago, got 2.1 million. SmackDown had a disastrous 888,000 on Fox Sports 1. I could give you a million and one reasons why we think it was that low. It's not good no matter what. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It's bad news in general, except for my point to be made. NXT was 698,000 literally about a week ago from the time you're watching this. And AEW was 963,000. So no one other than Raw within the last
it wasn't a good week.
Calendar week did 1 million other than Raw. Bad news. Now, if you're a big Myron fan this week, I know Stephanie Martin, isn't that her name? She's a big Myron fan. Isn't that her name? She comments a lot. Well, anyway, she'll know who I'm talking about.
I don't actually look at the stuff you post. I'm sorry.
The feed, the video feed, it gets all the comments and everything. But anywho, so you have a lot of people who love you and who take shots at me all the time, and that's okay. This is a bad week for them because I got a lot of numbers and got a lot of opinions, and if you disagree with them, I'm sorry. So ultimately, at the core, and Myron, at any point, correct me if you think I'm wrong here. So based on those numbers from last week, my observation is I truly believe that the diehard fan base of pro wrestling on television is between 1, and I'm going to be generous and give you 1.2 million. I really think it's closer to like 1.1 million, somewhere in that window.
So you're saying that the people that followed SmackDown over to Fox Sports 1 are the people that take wrestling serious enough to go looking for it when it's not on their channel? Are you telling me that when people watch Raw, there's not 2 million hardcore wrestling fans watching Raw?
I do not. I do not believe there are 2 million die-hard wrestling fans that watch television now, I honestly believe, based on the 963, the 700, the 890,000 for AEW NXT, and I think that Fox Sports 1 move, when I say a million, the reason I'm cushioning, there's probably, okay, first of all, it's Friday. It's a more obscure channel. It's harder to find in the lower.
The World Series is actually on.
Well, it wasn't then. Series, right? It wasn't then. It is this week. That's the built-in excuse, by the way, for this week why NXT and AEW can be bad, because Game 7 of the World Series is going to be on the same time, that they're on. So they have their built-in excuse already. Irrelevant to this point, but you are correct. So if I truly believe that's what the television viewing base, the die-hard fan base, will put on, because think about it, that backstage show drew 800,000 people that WWE does on Fox Sports 1. So I think that's it. Those people will watch just damn near anything you put out on wrestling. They'll watch it.
Fair enough.
So by that theory, Raw and SmackDown normally, not this past week, normally you're drawing somewhere between 1 and 1.5 million casual fans. So double the viewership.
Okay.
So in my theory, is that AEW may gain to get up to about 1.5 million, 1.75 million if they're lucky and they can capture some of those casual fans. Why is that important? I don't think that there's ever going to be another WWE level viewership. I don't know that AEW ever gets to 2 million.
So when Platinum said there is no wrestling boom,
he's correct. Sort of. That was the whole part of this conversation. One, when we say it's the death of the big wrestling companies, it's not clickbait, but it was to get your attention that I don't think we ever get back to 4 million people watching wrestling. Like, they were trying to say 4 million people watching Raw, 4 people. I think that era is gone.
Well, the demographic has shifted. The people when we were in that, that 18 to whatever bracket it is.
We're still 1849. We're still barely hanging on to it.
Yeah. But we watched it on television, Nick, because we didn't have DVRs. We didn't have internets. I read books. I studied magazines for figures on things. I was, if it didn't come on television, I didn't see it. I didn't record it because you know about how hard programming a damn VCR used to be.
Oh yeah.
So if I didn't see it, I didn't see it. And that's different. I didn't have all the content we had. When those Raw numbers and the Monday Night War numbers were happening, it was a different world. I didn't have streaming services. I had a old cathode ray TV, a CRT, 19-inch. It sat on the other side of the room because I was not used to seeing things up close. And my eyes were a lot better, actually. But I didn't have an Xbox. I didn't have a Amazon Fire over here. I didn't have a Roku. I didn't have all this other stuff we have now. I just had a television and a cable box that was the size of a small bread box.
That's the popular answer. I'm going to give you the unpopular answer. I don't think wrestling gets there for a multitude of reasons. And some of it is they're like, oh, you're never going to see a star that reached the level of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair. Hell, I dare say John Cena.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is it probably is. I don't think the wrestling fans will ever let anybody get to that level. I think we stand in our own way.
Well, you're going to have to expand on that because that's pretty, it's a kind of hot button topic there.
The fan base of We like to say, okay, so I'll give you the example. What I'm saying by that, we go through cycles of when we talk about ratings, they're at an all-time low. They attained this all-time low in a period where the WWE, and here's the funny part, everybody's crapping all over Seth Rollins right now. 8 months ago, maybe a year ago, everybody was screaming from the mountaintops, he should be the one to dethrone Brock Lesnar. He should be the Universal Champion. Now, they didn't necessarily handle it the best, which is a topic we're going to handle in a minute, but they gave you what you wanted. Becky Lynch should be the women's champion. They made her Becky 2 belts. They gave her both belts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Kofi Kingston, meteoric rise to he deserved it. He got it. They gave you Becky. They gave you Seth. They gave you Kofi.
You should be happy.
Ratings declined. Because the second you got what you wanted, you started turning on some of it.
Like my damn kids.
Is it hard to do? Because also, wrestling has such a toxic fan base and a culture where we try to tell ourselves, wrestling's for everybody. Sort of. Everybody should be entitled to be in the ring. Right? That's what they try to tell you. But we're not talking about that yet. We're going to talk about fans. You're an idiot because you don't know enough.
I like Roman Reigns. I think he's a very good wrestler.
But what would the casual fan, or not the casual fan, could tell you that. The smart fan would tell you he's determined.
Who's your favorite wrestler? Roman Reigns. Do you like to watch wrestling on TV? Yes, I look forward to it every night. What's AEW? I don't know. Did I call Frank's kid stupid? Did I tell him you're dumb because you don't know who's a good wrestler? Roman Reigns, he doesn't have a great work rate and he sucks on the promo. No, I didn't. Because he likes it. He's enjoying it. It's wrestling. He's the fan.
He's the fan. Every promotion, every fan should want to be in on their favorite promotion.
Mm-hmm. Sustainability.
I always tell people, if you want WWE to fail, you are part of the problem. Yes. And what I mean by that is, if Fox, if SmackDown fails, and we said this months ago, and I'm just reiterating it again, if SmackDown fails on Fox, it could very well be the nail in the coffin of any promotion ever getting a network TV deal again.
Oh, yeah. You will not see it again. This is the great test. This is the way they rolled all the money out for Controlled Experiment. They knew what SmackDown was getting on USA. They knew what they were getting without SmackDown. They brought them to a bigger market, put them on a bigger stage, knowing they could get at least 2 million every time. If SmackDown does not draw 2 million, they're fools for doing this deal. If SmackDown draws 4 million, they're the greatest geniuses in broadcasting history.
Well, because they'll get it every week. They're 52 weeks a year. They don't have the issue. And what I try to tell people all the time about WWE is, at some point, WWE could go global. Mm-hmm. They're doing great business overseas, right? They go to Saudi. They're doing a show, which we'll discuss in a minute as well. They go to England. They can go to Germany. They can go all over the UK. They can go to Australia, run shows. Mm-hmm. You don't think that the WWE is beholden. Now, a huge chunk of their market, obviously, the U.S., but they're not beholden. They could go overseas and do more touring and be better off.
Where kayfabe isn't dead.
To some of that is true. That is true. So what I'm saying is, like, I think the big company, if the WWE fails, I mean, as far as when I mean fails, drops down, they end up back on everything's on a cable, smaller channels, smaller TV revenues, all that kind of stuff or whatever. Things have to be shuffled down. Failed. I mean, I'd love to fail and to be reduced to having a cable television show versus a box. I get it.
Well, that's the thing. WWE is the pole in the center of the tent. The tent is wrestling. Everybody else would hold up their little poles around on the outside. New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact, AEW. They all got poles. They're all holding the tent up too. But if you take the pole out of the center of the tent, the whole tent's going to fall down.
When people say wrestling and they don't know anything about wrestling, they go WWE.
Because they're media. They have transcended the wrestling audience. And this might be why people are bitter, but they have become wrestling. They have become what people think about. When I tell someone I'm a wrestling fan, they start asking about WWE. That's all it is to it.
Right.
No way around it. There's no way to avoid it. They are wrestling. We need them.
Now, we talked about this earlier, on the pre-show about how I think AEW is a great value buy for TNT for the rating they're getting and the key demographic. I'm talking in the whole, this is stuff I don't even like to talk about a ton, but they're getting a good value. But my thing is, I don't think you're ever going to see, nor should they try to be, AEW should never attempt to be WWE.
No.
They just need to be a wrestling company, figure out a way to be profitable, make some money, and stay in business. And that would be the best thing they can do.
You can make a lot of money in this business. You can make a lot of money in this business. Find your role and continue in it. I mean, there's a reason Impact is still in business. Even though they didn't have a TV deal, basically. There's money to be made. There's things to be done. Just do your thing. What does Gary say? They are riches in the niches.
Yeah. And I think that's, when I say the renaissance, the boom, the pro wrestling boom, it is not AEW. It is not WWE. It is not all. It's the smaller companies who are going to figure this out. I include indie companies in that. Companies like Southern Honor, that I think that they can build a base. I mean, there's companies like PWX that draw like 1,000. There's companies out in California that draw a couple thousand, to their shows. Those are where you want, in my opinion, that's a good wheelhouse to be. I think companies like Impact Wrestling is going to prove a lot of people wrong. They got a nice home now on Access. I think their show, by the way, was really good. I know Sami Callihan, who we're not huge fans of, but the match wasn't that bad, by the way. I watched it.
The intergender match?
No, him and Cage. He won the belt last night.
Oh, I thought it was.
No. Brian Cage and Sami Callihan wrestled for the title. Sami Callihan's your new champion in Impact. But anyway, wasn't bad. So I think they're, as long as they're business smart, they're going to be okay. But the companies that are at the top, I'm sorry, just if you're just pounding and pounding and pounding as a wrestling fan, you're part of the issue.
That's the thing. When Impact was TNA, and they decided to run against Monday Night Raw on Monday nights, and they were doing okay before they did that. They are just now recovering from trying to take on Raw on Monday nights. You can't start another Monday Night War unless you're an equal. There's no equals anymore. You can't take on the WWE. Do your show. Make your show work. Find people that like it. Put it in front of them. And it works.
And everybody wants the when we get into the whole ratings conversation, this is part of the problem. Everybody likes to pound the negative to the, because that's the fun thing to do, right? It's always good to be just like pound the negative, whether it be any promotion and stuff. And, a lot of people are saying like, well, the reason why the ratings are what they are, well, let's defend this one, but let's not. You're predisposed to one promotion versus the other. So you're going to defend your product like, I got it. The reason everybody likes to blame is what? Creative. It's always creative's fault.
I wish I didn't know there was such a thing as creative. I wish I had never learned there was a booker.
That's what we're about to dive into.
I really wish. I mean, I know this podcast has been so good to us by talking about these things, but I lost a lot of the pleasure I got out of wrestling back when I didn't know there was a booker and back when I didn't know how the sausage was made. Now I look at it from a objective, more, I don't know. I look at it, I break things down. I criticize. It's not fun anymore a lot. And that's why I didn't watch any wrestling this week besides NWA, because I still like that. It's still fun for me.
It stemmed from something that happened on Raw. And this is kind of where, what led me to this topic. So the Lana Rusev Bobby Lashley story they're running right now, um, it's getting a lot of negative. Like, oh well, creative is terrible, whatever. First of all, I would beg to differ. I enjoyed the segment. I thought it was really good. I thought Jerry Lawler did a good job directing traffic and moderating it. I thought Lana commanded a good presence in the ring. Um, Rusev endeared himself to the crowd at times, especially with his one-liner when she accused him of being a sex addict, that all he ever wanted to do was just have sex with her all the time. It was one of the funniest moments of the show when he looked and said, "Can you blame me?" And I chuckled and was like, "No, he's right. He's right. Good point." I turned into Cartman.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so, but the complete thing that I'm coming at a thing of just disconnect with some of the other wrestling fan base. And this is the hardest part, that it's like I jokingly said to somebody, like, if you really want to hurt your fandom of a wrestling fan, like, do a wrestling podcast, or just troll social, just scroll, not troll, scroll
Join
through.
wrestling Twitter.
Yeah, just read wrestling Twitter all the time, and then so it could really get you. And why I said this was, and it kind of triggered, was because it triggered me in the sense of, it's always creative's fault. At some point, isn't your favorite wrestler that's being used incorrectly, I'm throwing air quotes there, isn't at some point that it's his fault? Doesn't at some point he have to accept the responsibility that maybe he's just not doing the best job he could do?
If they were given a role they can't play, I could get it. Okay. I couldn't see Roman Reigns getting an effeminate gimmick. I don't think it would work. But they wouldn't have given him that because that was just stupid. We watch movies and we look at, well, this we'll date the Jokers back from Cesar Romero, and we'll date Batman back from Adam West. And who was the best one? Who got it most over? Well, I didn't see any of the Ben Affleck Batman stuff.
He was good. It's not popular opinion, but he was good.
Okay. I didn't see the Jared Leto Joker stuff, but everybody shits on it. Was it Jared's fault or was it booking's fault? Because that's an established character. What I'm trying to say is, the Batman and the Joker are established characters. We'll just call them gimmicks that have been played by different actors, much like wrestlers. Was this guy able to get the gimmick over? It wasn't the gimmick's fault, because the gimmick's over. Look at the new Joker movie right now.
Yeah.
Look at the Batman with Heath Ledger. Those movies were totally over. Is the reason the Ben Affleck Batman did not draw as much money as those because Ben Affleck couldn't get the gimmick over, or is it the writing of the story? Stories are pretty much the same.
Well, the only difference that I say to that is, well, first of all, it was funny because what I mentioned is, so in wrestling, what you're telling me is it's not possible to take an idea that doesn't sound to you very good, something that you just don't believe, that you're like, I don't know, because nobody's ever taken a gimmick where he was a 400-pound, big giant, body lift Mark Henry, who was having sexual relations with an 80-year-old woman and she gave birth to a hand, or they strutted a guy out there in polka dots, and even worse, they gave his son the Goldust gimmick, who was androgynous, was the character's name, and nobody even knew what that meant.
He went from the natural to the
androgynous Goldust. So the question being is, and I prefaced all of this by, I listened to Mark Henry address this, and Mark Henry said sometimes, even when he was told to do things he didn't like, he went out there and he took chicken shit and made chicken salad out of it and made it work. Embrace it and make it work. It can be done, because sometimes you'll prove yourself wrong.
Well, Mark Henry didn't get it when he was first brought in, and they dropped him back to OVW, and he figured it out, and he came back and did things right. Mark Henry's in the Hall of Fame, Dusty's in the Hall of Fame. Dustin would have gone into the Hall of Fame right away had he not gone to work for AEW. That's very simple. Those people worked at that. Those people got a gimmick that would have not worked on. We can even say the Dusty. Everybody says, was the Dusty gimmick a work? Was that like a rib trying to make him look bad? Even if it was, he still beat it. Okay, he was terrific with a shit gimmick. So how do we blame? Okay, we give Seth Rollins a gimmick that probably actually is Seth Rollins, and he can't get that gimmick over. Who's to blame? Is it creative? I don't think you get to a point where there are guys that can change stuff up enough, or guys that can improv or act. That's why Big E, Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston are popular, because they embrace the hell out of their gimmick.
But think about this. We've read this week, Myron, just this past week, because, Xavier blew his, I don't know if you knew, he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
So, but now everybody's already talking about, is it time for Big E to turn?
Oh, yes, time for Big E to turn. Let's quit selling merchandise. That's what I want to do, is quit selling merchandise, break up a solid tag team stable who fans love, kids love, sells a ton of merch, always good for a solid match anytime. Let's split all that up and just shit on it because it's time for a turn, because creative doesn't know what they're doing.
And again, a lot of people are like, I just want wrestling. I don't want, soap opera. First of all, wrestling and soap opera are synonymous with each other. It's the same. It's always been called a male soap opera.
I mean, going back and watching the old stuff, it's worse. They do the same gimmicks or all these other things and all these back angle stories. They're produced horribly. They don't look believable. And we tuned into that shit every time it came on television because it was great. You want to watch wrestling, watch Ring of Honor. NXT is pared down, okay? It's not as much storyline as the bigger shows were. Find something, because you can watch it. Hell, I can watch MMA if I don't want storyline. But hold on. Now MMA has storyline.
Yeah.
And it's more popular than ever before.
I gave a classic example to somebody the other day when we were talking about, because they're like, it's too soap opera. I don't want to see any of that stuff, that backstage stuff they do, or their backstage segments. It's just cheesy or whatever. Give me old school, like 80s wrestling. And I was like, raised my hand, said, I got a question. I remember as a kid seeing Dusty Rhodes and Blackjack Mulligan on Blackjack Mulligan's ranch, and J.J. Dillon drove out there in his, got driven out there in his limo, and they told him to get off the property and stuff, started shooting their shotguns in the air, and ran him through the swamps of Florida to get away. And, I'm like, trust me, we've seen some pretty bad stuff. I mean, we saw Purple Haze walk out of the ocean. Remember that? Kevin Sullivan.
I missed that one.
That's a Florida thing. It's another, yeah. But I mean, just stuff like that. There's always something kind of just that's so hokey and so cheesy. But because it was back in the day, it was okay. It was good wrestling. I mean, Dusty would get, you remember when Dusty would get suspended? He would lose a loser leave town match. Midnight Rider would show up.
Yep. The Mid-South bit where they went looking for Stagger Lee because the Junkyard Dog he's suspended. And they do that bit where they're out there trying to find Stagger Lee to come take Bill Watts' side against the Midnight Express and the evil James E. Cornette. Watch it right now, folks. Looks like shit.
Friend of the show, Stephen Platinum, made a great point when he was discussing magic.
Yes.
With pro wrestling. My plea and my, for wrestling fans are try to enjoy the magic.
Make wrestling enjoyable again.
I promise you can. Not knowing who the booker is, not knowing who the backstage politics or whatever. If you can let that go, I promise you, if you sit down and you start watching a wrestling show and you honestly can set that aside and leave that at the door and just watch wrestling, sometimes you're too smart for your own good. On the pre-show, we addressed some of this, and my stance was real simple. Junkyard Dog drew big money in Mid-South territories.
Mm-hmm.
Would be just absolutely just run through the ringer if he was today. They would say he was trash. He couldn't wrestle. He was awful.
He was a gimmick. We love the gimmick. The work was secondary. We didn't even notice the work was bad. I didn't know the work was bad. I knew Dog was out there kicking some ass, and I enjoyed it. And when they started playing his music, everybody in that auditorium hit the roof. It was beautiful to see. Folks, I don't watch movie trailers anymore, especially with the Marvel movies, because they absolutely saturate you with all the high spots in the movie. So when I go to a Marvel movie, which I love the Marvel movies, that's just one of my things, I haven't seen a single trailer, so everything they do surprises me. The battle in the last Avengers movie, I cried because it was all a surprise when everybody came back. And wrestling can be the same way. We were at a wrestling show a few weeks back with a big angle going on, and I kind of knew something was going to happen just from, I've been watching wrestling for a while. But one of the guys, security guys, came out and said, "Hold on, wait, this is about to happen." I'm like, yeah, why'd you have to do that to me? I didn't want to know that was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen because, like I said, wrestling is not new. They're not doing new things. They're not writing new stories. All this has been done before. Chris Benoit, Woman, Kevin Sullivan. Hey, you might want to be careful about these gimmicks because it's like how Sullivan lost his wife there, Rusev.
Yeah, but here's my thing, and it's but it's all of the above. It's just sometimes I think we dig too far into like knowing what we know, and everybody wants to know all the backstage stuff. That's why the wrestling probably, that's not a popular opinion. Wrestling might not be as enjoyable because you know more than you should know. If it's like he said, if the magician was floating on the stage and the lights came on and you saw the strings, it's not as enjoyable, is it?
Well, when I was a little kid and we had sausage patties at almost every breakfast, and I didn't know it was like lips and assholes or whatever else, or I ate hot dogs and somebody wasn't telling me, well, that's just lips and assholes. And all I could think was, man, this hot dog's good as shit.
Yeah. The other, and this is where we're going to move on. The last point was this guy's being shoved down our throats. I hate to tell you this, especially if you're older. Kids, kids younger may not even remember this. There's always been a guy being shoved down your throat. You just didn't know any better.
Because most of them were able to get over because they were charismatic and they were able to do that. When Dusty got over, the biggest turn in history, I don't care what anybody says, is in Florida when Dusty turned face. Okay. That show, that one turn drove the business for a long, long time in Florida. He got it over. Flair could never work face as well as heel because he could get that heel gimmick over. John Cena was not an effective doctor of thugonomics, but when he got his good gimmick,
I beg to differ.
He got super over though. The Rock, Maivia, what do they call him at first?
Rocky Maivia. He was
Rocky Maivia. Then when he became The Rock, when he got the gimmick in the right spot and he got it over, he hit his stride. It took a minute. He had a gimmick, he had a formation of a gimmick. And wrestlers and creative don't know how things are going to react to everything. And sometimes they tune it as it's going on. I watched Todd Sexton, who I consider to be an incredible booker, change things in a show as it's going on. Change lineups, change things going on, change when you hit music, change what order the music he wants to play. Because I worked sound one time at Southern Fried, and I actually saw the way the sausage was made. I saw how Todd was thinking crazy all over the place, handling things, setting up stuff, changing stuff, making stuff work better because he saw something in the crowd that night, or he saw something in the back that we didn't know about. And you tune it. People get their gimmicks tuned when they get them over. Roman Reigns' gimmick hasn't changed. He's never getting over. He's never making it better. He's a phenomenal wrestler. No one out there can criticize him and be truthful about it. Randy Orton's a phenomenal wrestler. He only wrestles great when he wants to. His gimmick is crappy. Bray Wyatt took the Firefly Funhouse. Got that shit over. There's your example.
Point taken.
You
There you
saw
go.
the first one, you thought it was dog shit, or you saw the pictures before it came out. God, this is hard. What the hell are they
I
doing?
think on social media it was brutal how everybody trashed it,
and he got
now he's the most over guy. He's a character baby face. Whether they want to book him as a heel or whatever.
I don't know what the hell this thing was. Seth Rollins burning the house down. That was the stupidest thing.
Yeah. Well, things change. I mean, it all is, but our big thing is, man, try to make it enjoyable. Try to let some of that baggage down at the door when you come in. But speaking of change, we're not going to address it a ton. There's one other note we wanted to address in WWE. Crown Jewel, who you may have seen at the point you listen to this, depending on what day you're listening or watching the show, is finally going to have a women's match in Saudi Arabia. I know for the record, a lot of people are like, it's the first women's match. It's actually not. I know Impact had a match there. I believe it was Velvet Sky and maybe. I can't remember who she wrestled, but I know they had a match there. Yes, it's true. Do a little digging. But it is the first big match. It's going to be on a big stage, and I know shot at Impact by that. And so there's progress being there.
Well, they put the wrong people.
But okay. First, we'll go through again. This is part of the narrative of just it's very simple to pistol whip the WWE because they're the big dogs in the yard. Total pun intended. But they're going to be covered from head to toe. Okay, my quick analogy was simple. If you go to your neighbor's house and you've never been there before, and they tell you to take off your shoes when you walk around the house, what do you do, Myron?
I would take off my shoes. Well, we proved that when we went over to visit QT at his home that time.
Absolutely.
She didn't say it, but he's like, my wife does not allow shoes in the house. So we
took our shoes off.
We didn't do fuck your couch like Rick James did.
Exactly. we said if you go to a friend's house and it's, you've never been there before, you kind of like, you want to dress you're kind of following customs or whatever as best you can until you figure out what's going on.
You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with the laws in Islamic countries, but it's their country. If you're going to say, you're in America, you better speak English, but we're going to go titties of ass right in Islamabad or whatever the fuck that is. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Respect. If you're going to expect some people to respect your culture, you have to respect theirs in reverse because they're paying the WWE money and you're getting to see it as an aside. Okay. The whole thing is they're not marketing that show for you. They're not going to make anywhere near as much money off that show on you watching on the network as they will the cash payment them Saudis going to give them. They're going to get exactly what they want.
Like, I don't think people are buying the network. Like, people aren't getting the network for the show.
No. It's just
maybe there might be somebody. I'm wrong. I mean, if I'm wrong, if you're getting the network just for this show, at Tapped Out Pod on Twitter, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Email me.
The massive WWE machine, how they can promote the hell out of everything. And they just dropped this shit. It's because something happened at the last minute they were able to do this.
And that was kind of what we were talking about earlier because a lot of people were like criticizing the choices.
They would have been heralding this for months in advance to get everybody, because they try to appeal to everybody. They do the Susan G. Komen stuff, put a big deal on that. They have like you said, they have the Connor's cure. If they think they can do something positive socially, they will tell you about it. And they just don't talk about this. This just came up.
I think that, because a lot of people are criticizing the choices. Now, Natty is not a choice I think it should be criticized. She's very instrumental in the whole start.
It depends on what you get from her, how she's going to act, how she's going to perform. You were saying she's the original part of the Divas movement, the original part?
I mean, the real wrestlers.
Yes, she's not somebody they brought in because she was beautiful. She is beautiful, but she was a wrestler.
Right. So I'm glad Natty's getting the spot. As far as to defend the Lacey choice, it's two things. I'm like, one, it's somebody she's been working with. They've got an angle running, so it makes sense for the two of them to work. Number two, we talked about this. If it was a last minute thing that was allowed, it could have just been availability. The other women could have been booked on something else, personal appearances. God only knows. They could have been told they could have time off. Maybe that might be the only two that were at the last minute willing to jump on the plane and make the trip.
And I don't know. I mean, Lacey Evans was in the military. I don't know if she served time in the Middle East or she's traveled or she learned. She was a military police, so she would have had to learn something about cultures and things like that. So she might be better equipped. But when we look at this, we like say, man, they booked Martin Luther King wrong. They booked Rosa Parks wrong. These people, I'm not equivalating what they are doing to Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, but they're doing something big. Okay.
It's a step.
It's a step for global women's rights. It's a small step because it's professional fucking wrestling. Okay. It's not getting on the bus and refusing to move. It's a tiny step, but we should respect that, even if it's wrestling.
Everybody wanted to, like you said, just smack around the WWE for even taking this thing, and they made the comment: change has to happen from within. Here's the first step. So if you're complaining, Myron, you might be part of the problem.
I'm seeing a trend.
Yeah. So now let's get into the, there's no way to get out of that one to go to where we want to go.
Part of the problem.
Huh?
This is the topic.
This is the part I'm openly telling people I'm part of the problem here. Yeah, full disclosure up front. So NWA, varying opinions. I wanted to be wrong. I legit wanted to be wrong. Heaven forbid, I always go to numbers, right? So first of all, you brought to my attention that NWA's YouTube channel has 143,000 subscribers. That was a number you gave me, right?
Yeah, that's not a lot of people.
It's not a ton. Episode 1 had 500,000 views. Episode 2 had 300,000. Episode 3 had 200,000. Episode 4 is currently at 100,000, which isn't really fair. It's only been out about 24 hours, roughly 23 hours.
Yeah, we're getting close to the 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. We're in the window, so we'll call it a day. It'll do 200,000 probably. If I had to guess, it'll do the 200,000.
YouTube's a tough market for wrestling because a lot of your wrestling fans probably don't have YouTube accounts. Now, I bet they watch YouTube. That would explain the fact that 500,000 people watched the first program, but they only have 142,000 subscribers. It's not aimed at your tech savvy 18-year-old kid. Okay. It's aimed at old guys like us and of our friends. I mean, I've had a YouTube channel for a while because I use YouTube all the time. It's one of my primary sources of entertainment. So I don't count. But your average man in his late 40s, going into his 50s, probably doesn't have a YouTube account. He just has YouTube on his phone and watched it there.
To support my thing here, because we had discussed Facebook as well, people watching it on Facebook. Episode 1, 104,000 views. Episode 2, 51,000. Episode 3, 26,000. You see a trend? It's following the exact viewing of the YouTube channel. Yeah. So if they get another 26 and a 200, you're roughly going to start being in the ballpark of 226,000 people.
So I'm
going to argue that's views, that ain't people.
Are they trying to prove that this is a concept that can get a television deal?
I don't know what they're trying to prove. And Myron, unfortunately, I wanted to be wrong. I am part of the problem. In 4 weeks, I've come to the conclusion, as much as I love their product, and I want a full disclaimer that up front, as much as I think it's cool looking and the nostalgia is great, prove me wrong, but they're done. I think the viewing patterns are already proven that they're already essentially going to be. You want me to really, as much as again, this kills me that I'm part of the problem. They're nothing better. As far as, are they any better than a super indie? I'm just saying. That's just my take. I could be totally wrong. And by the way, a super indie that can claim the length of the legacy of their product. They have the belt that literally, I mean, has the longest running champion. And that's the best they can do. To me, they're nothing at this point but a glorified super indie promotion. Now, if they prove me wrong, I'm fully accepting it because I want it to succeed because I do dig the presentation.
God, episode 4 was so good, Nick. It kills me when they come out to the podium to do an interview James Storm is great. Eli Drake, how have I not spent more time with Eli Drake? This guy is amazing. Tim Storm is a legit badass. Ricky Starks, I would compare him to if Rock in his prime were a young man. He is that good on the mic. We got Thunder Rosa. They killed it with her package. Trevor Murdoch. Oh, Jesus. The women's division is great. The tag team division is great. Camille is so over with that gimmick she's got going on. I always knew she was talented. I always knew she was cool. I did not know she could get something over and had the talent to get things over the way she has. She has gone out there and killed every episode. I love watching that show. It's like I got to go back to watch Continental Wrestling with a lot of people I know on the show. My contemporaries. Well, actually, I'm older than those people. Most of them. I think it's great. I enjoy the hell out of it. The commentator, Jim Cornette, and that Joe Galley guy work perfectly together. They've worked on other stuff together. It's such a great product. Is it the fact that the commercials are so hokey that turns people off? Is the fact that people wanted to watch it to see what it looked like the first time and then didn't come back for more? Is it the fact that they're not on television? And the people our age watch television. The people my kids' age don't ever turn television on. They got televisions in their rooms. They look at their phones. They stream. If they use the television, they stream something to it. Network television, cable television is aimed at people who don't depend on the internet for everything. And YouTube, to many people, is the internet. They think a lot of people only watch it on their computers, and a lot of people don't turn their computers on every day. Okay. They'll look at their smartphones if they can remember to watch it on there. I hope it's something that's in the wrong place and they can get a TV deal, because everybody's getting TV deals right now. But if I owned AEW, I would be watching them. And if there were any falter at all, I would go in there and I would scoop up Aldis, Eli Drake, any of these people who have worked in a ring before at a higher level, who are trained and know how to do this stuff. Because the AEW is green. The guys on NWA are experienced veterans who've worked for companies. They've worked all over the place. They understand what's expected of them. They know how to work the professional style. They're not straight out of a livestock barn somewhere on the East Coast. They're experienced professionals. It would help AEW. Some of the guys are just too green to get this stuff figured out. They do too much. Nick Aldis is perfect. Tim Storm is a general. Okay. I used to laugh at it because they had such an old champion, but I know now he's champion. He is the guy. I love what they're doing. I want it to be in a good place.
I do too. That's the dilemma that I face is, I always tell you, I also want to love my NES emulator that I played, when I first got my controller, but it's just now I don't play it.
Yeah.
It's got to keep me, it's got to have something new to keep me interested and keep me wanting to come back. And I just, right now, I'm not feeling it.
To me, it's like, it is nostalgic is the way it works. I'm familiar with the format. I like the studio. I like the commentary podium. I like being able to see the whole thing at one time. It's got new talent I'm more interested in. So it's not like going back and watching nothing but the 70s and 80s wrestling. It's the 70s, 80s wrestling feel with brand new talent. And I like that. And I think it has a chance to move outside of the nostalgia bracket. But this is going to be dependent on one thing they are not doing worth a shit. They're not promoting themselves.
Exactly.
Billy Corgan, lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins, is acting like this is a secret to the Pumpkins fans. If I was a musician, I had a huge fan base, and I went out and started another company, I would tell everybody in that established fan base, first thing, to come watch this, because I do this too. They're not getting promotion. Mm-hmm. They're not got a television channel, like a television commercial. They're not out there on Facebook blowing it up all the time. You can't market to me, people. No one should market their wrestling program to me, because I'm already fucking watching.
Speaking of promotions, man, we're going to move into those Georgia indie promotions. And you know who does a hell of a job promoting?
Man.
That's right, folks. It's Southern Honor Wrestling Week. They're also the official sponsor of the Georgia Indie Talk segment this week. Gary and those guys, man, are just rocking it nonstop. So, of course, when it comes to promotion, they're knocking it out every single time. So let's take a look and let's see what we've got to look forward to this week, this Friday, up at Southern Honor Wrestling in Canton, Georgia.
Attention wrestling fans, Southern Honor Wrestling Season 2 starts Friday, November 1st at the Action Building in Canton, Georgia. Come see the hottest wrestling promotion in the Southeast and find out what the wrestling world has been buzzing about. The Lynch Mob kicks off a best-of-3 series against Not Yet Rated to crown the first ever SHW Tag Team Champions. Danny Jordan goes one-on-one with Kenzie Page. GB1C makes their Southern Honor debut as they take on Brady Pierce and Judas Lethal Poison. SHW fan favorite Ashton Starr battles Georgia sensation Slim J, and AC Mack receives his championship rematch against the new SHW champion Logan Creed, plus so much more. Doors open at 7 p.m., bell time at 8 p.m. Don't miss the excitement and grab your tickets now at southernhonorwrestling.com.
Well, man, they just are killing it up there at Southern Honor.
Crying because I'm not going to be able to be there.
I know you're not going to make it. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna see if I can get the wife to go with me, maybe to take the ride up there.
Look at that video. You have the best athletes in the country. You have the best trained wrestlers around. You have storyline, drama, character development, superior production. It's just the show. I'm passionate about independent wrestling, but I think what they're doing is special. I think what they're doing is what has Southern Honor has been the people that if you think there's a wrestling boom in Georgia, it's because everybody is trying to get into wrestling because of what Southern Honor's doing.
Yeah, the card's loaded, man. Sunny Days versus David Ali. The Lynch Mob is starting their best-of-3 series with Not Yet Rated.
That match is going to be top end.
Oh yeah, they're going for the first, for the tag titles. Danny Jordan versus Kenzie Page Henry. That one's going to be good.
This is going to be good, and I'm going to tell you why. Danny has succeeded in getting over on a grand scale to the fact she's getting bookings all over the place. I'm seeing her face on more posters than just about anybody now.
Oh, yeah.
Kenzie Page Henry is the future of women's wrestling.
She's 17.
17, trained by Dr. Tom Pritchard, the guy who trained The Rock.
Kurt Angle. Yeah, I mean,
pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And I saw her after the show. She showed up at the last Southern Fried show. I just shook her hand. I didn't go.
Southern Honor, but
Southern Honor, sorry. You know me in words. And she was picking up chairs after the show, folding up chairs and helping. There were a couple of jobbers that had come in for the show. And she was right there with them, not even booked on the show, just coming down to, I guess, try to see what it would look like. And she was picking up the chairs, and she was doing with the ring crew. 17. I can't get my damn kids to clean their room.
It's a good sign for the future that she's clearly been taught well.
So what you're going to get to see is someone who has developed as the best independent wrestler in Georgia, in my opinion, and someone who has an unlimited potential. This match will be something that when they both get onto a bigger scale, you're able to say, well, I saw them at Southern Honor Wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Ashton Starr versus Cam Carter. They got an open contract. So Gary put out a challenge a while back to earn a shot for a Southern Honor contract. And Josh Powers and Blanco Loco, who we've both seen Josh Powers before. I actually had the privilege of seeing Blanco Loco down at Viral Pro work. He's part of the International Superstars team that was down there. But so that one's going to be cool to see who's going to earn a shot. Could be a big deal.
That because I'm not bragging, but I get messaged all the time from people who are like, hey, can you get me over with Southern Honor? Hey, who do I need to talk to at Southern Honor? Hey, what I need to know about? I can't get anybody over, folks. They've already got their shit together. They're booked so far in advance that the fact that they're bringing in people to give them a shot at the contract, it's a pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Cam Carter and Asher Starr is going to be a barn burner. barn burner.
Yeah, and then of course, Logan Creed will defend the Southern Honor Championship versus the former champion AC Mack 1-on-1. So that one should be good as well, because you've got, and my, I put if you're on a Patreon member over at patreon.com/tappedoutpod, I released a, what I consider, and this is my opinion, the top 10 wrestlers in Georgia. I did that last week. So check it out. I mean, I showed you the list, before I put it up. And like, that was my list, and those guys are both on it, and they're both really high on it.
Yeah.
So check it out.
Don't forget the big tag team match. GB1C is coming in, who are all over Georgia, to face Lethal Poison. That's Judas and Brady Pierce. Those are some big guys.
Yeah.
Talented guys.
I jokingly put on there, I was like, good luck with that.
I hope, the kids.
They're good kids.
I love that Tyler Rivera guy, because he actually hustles so hard. He's always showing up everywhere. He's doing whatever he can to get over. He's promoting himself on social media. That kid's got a good head on the shoulders. I do not know the Wolverton kid as well as I do Tyler, but seem like good kids. It's a bad thing. They're just going to be there.
So make sure you get your tickets over at southernhonorwrestling.com, depending on when you're listening, but southernhonorwrestling.com. As always, there'll be, general admission tickets at the door, but tickets fly. They got those cool seating, cool stage seating, tables, get your front row, second row, etc. But southernhonorwrestling.com, make sure you get your tickets. Let's jump into some of it real quick, because we're going to probably run long here a little bit. So this week, we had a couple things we wanted to talk about, but I wanted to address, Stephen Platinum had a video that came out just literally the morning we were recording, and he brought up Action Wrestling.
Let me do an aside, folks. We keep bringing up Stephen Platinum. If you don't know who he is, I suggest you look him up on YouTube. He is an expert on wrestling. He's an expert booker. He's a very connected man in the wrestling business who is on the Georgia Wrestling History staff. And he's kind of got this stuff figured out. So if you want to step up a level in your wrestling knowledge just by listening to him, or going above us as far as the level of knowledge we have, he's the guy to look to. Still listen to us, but I'll put him over.
YouTube, Stephen Platinum. He's got a Patreon as well. You can check out as well.
Oh yeah. I love it.
So he brought up, it was cool. We're going to talk about Tipping Point, which is a show that he's involved with. He wasn't on this particular episode this week, but he's involved with. So Action Wrestling ran a show this past weekend. Larry Goodman was there. Made reference to it, was a show of the year candidate. And I have watched it, by the way, because I always jokingly say, if Alan Tucker was there, you can watch the show. It's on Facebook. And so I did watch the show, and it was really good. I'm not going to lie. It was really good.
I don't think anyone ever said it wasn't good.
Yeah. And we've never not, it's so far away from where we are to the action shows that we haven't made one yet, but I do make a point to watch their shows.
Well, I didn't go to any shows this weekend. And I'm going to just go ahead and put myself under the bus. My girlfriend asked me to spend some time at home for a change. And I was in a shitty mood. And I made the best out of a weekend by spending time with her. And I really enjoyed that. I'm not going to quit going to wrestling shows, but I took a little Myron time. I took a little Melissa time.
And, in this video, he brought up a good point about Southern, about Georgia wrestling. He essentially has said now that he believes that Action Wrestling is now the number 2 promotion in Georgia. Southern Honor clearly is the number 1 promotion in Georgia right now. I'm sorry. And we discussed this. That the difference between 1 and 2, the gap is wide. Sorry, it is.
Well, what you're talking about, you're looking at attendance. You're looking at production. You've got a lot. I mean, I'm saying nothing wrong with Action. Okay, they've got top quality talent, top quality matches. But they look like an indie show, which most indie shows do, and Gary's Southern Honor looks like a Ring of Honor or a NXT show.
Yeah. Larry says Southern Action Wrestling, top to bottom on a card, is probably the best wrestling you're going to find, that's how they get to 2, is they put on a great show. Our argument was that I think that 2 through 5 are closely bunched together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The gap between 1 and 2 is bigger than the gap between 2 and 5.
Well, 2 and 5 surge. 1 comes up one comes down, one comes up. There's always fluctuation in the 2 through 5, in my opinion.
Right. Like right now, I would, my rankings are Southern Honor, Action, Southern Fried. Southern Fried still has plenty of time to kind of fight their way back, get back into that. Again, being in top 3 is not that bad.
Big Thanksgiving show. It's always popular, and it's always the show Todd just books the hell out of.
So the other promotions that I put in the mix, agree or disagree with me, Viral, Anarchy, who's making some rumblings again. They had a great turnout. IWE, Peach State, Spinebuster, and Crowd Beware. There's a returning PCW coming back, this weekend as well.
To do the Southern Honor thing where they come in late in the year and put on an amazing show and then go on the next year to just kill it all.
We'll see.
Matt Hankins is someone I have started studying, not like stalking, but when he puts out something, I want to watch it. When he posts something, I want to read it because he's over and he really knows how to get over. And I need to learn from people that are over in the wrestling business and learn how to pick something up from them. Matt Hankins is a genius. That show's got unlimited potential. Spinebuster is the hidden gem. The hidden gem in Georgia. Show never been out to. It's on a Wednesday night. And they're probably drawing in with the top 2 and 3 draws in the state. They're drawing over 200 on most shows, sometimes up to 300. I've never been to one, so I can't really tell you what it's like. I've watched a little bit of it. I know they're booked very well. I know they've got great guys on there. They bring down a lot of people that we know. A lot of people from Atlanta go down and work there. I haven't been there, so I really can't quote on the vibe, but I think they're in a spot where they're growing, and if it continues to grow and it continues to thrive, they have a chance to eat up more of the state of Georgia, maybe spread their appeal out some.
I think they got an opportunity to grow their business. I don't even know, because of where they are, I don't think it hurts anybody. I think they just need to take care of themselves and grow their business.
They're in their spot. Yeah. They're not competing, but to me, they're the only promotion I know of in South Georgia that has the opportunity to break into the North Georgia discussions. Because the big criticism about the Georgia Wrestling History Awards and all that stuff is, well, that's just North Georgia. Nobody covers South Georgia. They're in a unique spot. They might be the guys that get covered. They might be able to break out of that stigma and get into the discussion.
And we brought up Anarchy firing up. Congrats to those guys getting big crowd back into the mix. But the other thing I wanted to talk about the Georgia, the tipping point is Trevor Ann was on there.
Yes, Trevor, cool as hell.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He was an interview we did way back in the day. And
catalog to try to find it, but it's definitely in the first year.
Oh God, yeah. You could do a search if you're in our on the Apple podcast. Do a search for the name or whatever. But yeah, it's there.
I met Trevor and Robert Gibson the same day. How cool was that?
Yeah. It was funny because one of the things was he was left out of that article about going to Japan. So he was on the tipping point, and you said he handled it super professional.
Yeah, he kind of made a little joke about it at first, but he handled it like a professional. He did his job. He came on. He got himself over. He told you what he was doing. You can't ask for anything more in an interview on a podcast than that. And I think he probably picked up some fans. If you're listening to it, I recommend that part of the show very heavily.
If you don't follow him, give him a look, because I actually think he's, it's a good, unique character that stands out right now amongst many of, the other stuff, the normal stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a ton of potential. So
live this gimmick.
Well, so anyway, there's a lot of opinions on this week's show. We appreciate it.
We didn't even cover the controversial topics.
No, we did not. We're not going to. But that's what they make the Patreon page for. So if you want to support us, man, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Become a member over there. You get the pre-show and any of the stuff early, whatnot, we can get up there for you. But make sure, that's one way to support us. You could also buy a shirt, prowrestlingtees.com.
I got on my Casey Carlisle shirt.
See? Yeah. So while you're there.
WWE Women's Champion, by the way. which I bought merch from her because that's how you support people you like and people who have helped you with your show. You buy merch from them. You go to our store over there on Pro Wrestling Tees, buy a shirt, we get money.
Helps us all out.
Chip in, we get money. Watch us, Jarrett Parsons Wrestling TV on your YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Tapped Out Pod. Very simple to find us.
Everywhere. Well, any social media, it's at Tapped Out Pod. TappedOutPod.com is the website. If you've got any just, comments, questions, we always tell you, we feel free, man, constructively DM us, PM us, or email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. No problems with open discussion as long as it's constructive, as we like to say.
I'll just block you.
Right, exactly. Well, man, you got anything else? I mean, I can't believe we got through it all.
Man, we ate that big piece of pie fairly effectively.
Well, man, what's the old saying then, brother? If I've got nothing and you got nothing, man, what time is it?
Time to tap out.